Hi guys, welcome to Adolescent Dogs and Human Emotions. It's okay to not be okay. So I'm Natalie. I run NK9 Dog Training and Behaviour in Leeds. And we've got Tasha.
Hi, I'm Tasha. I run Miyagi's Dog Training and Behaviour Services in Lincolnshire. Right then. So, lots and lots of people get upset about adolescent dogs. Like literally every single client that I know, or if somebody rescues a dog, which typically is an adolescent in rescue, and you're not alone. And being upset is completely valid and it's normal. Um, you know, I've had 3 adolescent dogs in a row, still not out of the adolescent phase yet, but I'm different to a lot of people. I just laugh it off. Because you've got to. There's no point getting upset about it. And it's like changing your mindset from the off. So when you get that cute puppy who is adorable, follows you around everywhere, because stereotypically you get the clients at puppy class like, well, the dog can already do sit, or lie down, waits for the food, and they do all the stereotypical traditional stuff. So when we're desperately trying to explain, like, hey, you can't just do 6 weeks puppy classes, it don't work like that, and they're like, no, it's fine, and they have this pre-assumption in the head, and you're like, okay, but you're going to be ringing me when the dog's 5 months old because you're not going to be coping. And this is why. And I think dog trainers and behaviours have a lot of responsibility to educate the public a lot more concerning adolescent dogs. Because like Natalie, you've been through it as well, haven't you? From raising your own with breeding.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of adolescents at one time, to be fair, and they are awful. But it's a stage we go through, and people don't realise. Like, I just don't think owners are aware, and I think that we, as behaviourists, like you're saying, trainers, we need to make people more aware of it's going to happen and it's going to come and it's not nice and you're going to cry and you're going to get upset because it's completely normal. And a lot of owners don't know about that, like you say, and it's a massive shock to the system. My puppy does this and it comes back to me and it follows me around, and then boom, it's gone self-employed and it's off. And you're like, and they're like, oh my God, where's it gone? And it's not staying by my side anymore and it's doing all this naughty stuff. And it's completely normal, but unless we prepare them, people for it, they just don't know. And it's pretty daunting. It can be pretty daunting, can't it, Tasha?
Yeah.
Because I've had quite a few at once, because I breed as well. So I've kept. So I've had full litters in adolescence at one time. And it's pretty intense, and they do test your soul, so to speak, because it is hard and it is emotional. And I think that's something that we need to teach people more in general, don't we? Like at a puppy class, and make sure owners are aware that this is the stage that they go through, and provide people with information about adolescence at that point so they can be well versed on it, so that they're ready for it when it comes. There's nothing worse than not being prepared for it.
No, definitely not. Because I can't pronounce her name properly, so I hope you forgive me. Kathy Tadeo. She did a podcast, I think with Nick Benger. I'm sure it was with Nick Benger. And she was saying how she found it funny that clients were saying about the puppy blues. And she's like, it's a puppy. How can a puppy ruin your life? And then like this client was desperate, in tears, and then she looked down and the puppy was like literally ragging on this client's shoe. And she said until she had a puppy herself again, she didn't realise just how hard it was and that the puppy blues are real. So now she massively advocates for the puppy blues. And this is a thing that people have got to remember. So, you do your research or you don't do your research and you go out and get a puppy. But nobody prepares you for what it's going to be like, sleepless nights. They're getting up, going toileting with the puppy to set them up to succeed. A lot of people are giving the wrong information straight away as to the dog's diet, as to their sleeping patterns, as to enrichment. There's there are some really good breeders out there, but there are also some terrible breeders out there, and there's not enough information out there. Or you've got owners who aren't vetted properly enough by breeders, and they do traditional training with the dog. They're rubbing the puppy's nose in the pee, leaving them to cry it out with separation anxiety, and overall it's just horrible. Or hitting the puppies with newspapers and that kind of thing. So we've got to appreciate that a puppy goes through a lot. And I would say to my clients, and this tends to hit home with every single one, okay, so you've got a puppy, they moved into your life, they're not sleeping, they're keeping you up at night, they're not toileting. And when you explain, so you've got an 8-week-old puppy, what would you expect from an 8-week-old baby? And then when you put it into that phrase, humans suddenly go, oh my God. And I'm like, exactly, an 8-week-old baby, even a year-old baby, you'd let them do everything in their nappy. They cry, they scream, and that's okay. But when it's a puppy, if you think about the human expectations we're placing onto a puppy, that is a lot. And obviously with the adolescent phase with puppies, you have the terrible twos where the toddler is scribbling on the walls, ripping stuff up, holding onto the radiator, not letting go. And again, you don't see toddlers being beaten, and if you do, it's on the news and the parents are arrested sort of thing. But there needs to be more education to support these people to understand how they treat these puppies is not correct. Another stereotypical type that I get is the puppy's biting constantly. The more we push them away, the more they're coming back in. Yes, because it's a fun game, and you've created a fun game. And with you pushing them away, not redirecting, not giving them a toy to play with, not giving them any stimulation or enrichment, you are so fun to chew on. And pushing them away is just encouraging that behaviour. And like crate training, I don't know of many parents anymore who do advocate for letting babies cry it out, like leaving them in prams at the bottom of the garden, leaving them to scream it out in their cot. So why do we do it to puppies? It's not right at all. And I do honestly believe, I know obviously dog owners and dog trainers and behaviourists are watching this, but I do believe that dog trainers and behaviourists, we have a lot further to go in educating people on a much wider scale. Like me and Natalie, we write a lot of blogs, don't we, between us across our pages, and we tag each other, but we go out of our way to try and educate people as much as possible. And we don't have massive platforms, but the people that do, you've got a duty of care to be educating these people and saying this behaviour is not okay, and this is how we can work with our puppies to have a healthy relationship with them, and this is how we can work with adolescent dogs to have a healthy relationship with them, rather than traditionally what it has been. And we've got to change the human mindset and the belief system about raising a puppy and raising an adolescent dog. And you try to explain to people about fear phases, and every owner that I educate about it did not know the existence to begin with, unless they've come to me with their second dog. They did not know anything about fear phases, and that's really sad because fear phases play such a huge part. And then a lot of owners don't know about the growth system that puppies go through with the prenatal, postnatal, and at what weeks, we've got milestones that X happens at this amount of weeks old. By 16 weeks old, their brain has absorbed so much around them, and it can massively determine whether your puppy's going to be, confident, reactive, aggressive when they grow up. Socialisation, that's another one. A lot of people don't realise with the puppies that, I know we get this all the time, and us dog trainers are pretty worn out through lockdown. I've got a puppy, and it must come to puppy class to socialise with the dogs. No, 1,000,000 times no. Your dog does not need to socialise with other dogs or puppies, and you don't need puppy parties. Puppy parties should be banned. What we do need to do, and this is how lockdown has helped us, is set puppies up to succeed in getting used to the environment and not being able to say hello to every dog that they meet. Because, stereotypically with my clients, German Shepherds, once you've let that German Shepherd puppy run up to every dog at class and play, as soon as that German Shepherd becomes stronger at 5 months old, they're then screaming, the German Shepherd scream and shouting and then becoming reactive because they're not allowed to say hello to every dog that they meet. So we take this puppy from mum, who's done an amazing job in most cases of raising these puppies to be polite. Their litter, you know, have got Mother Nature's done her job, taught puppies how to interact with each other, and then well-meaning owners come along and throw these puppies into puppy parties, and Mother Nature and the laws of nature no longer exist, and they're being humanized, you know. And we've got to accept that puppies are a different species to humans. So if humans want to socialize, fine, go do it, but leave puppies and dogs out of it. I'm so passionate about this. It like, there's such a fire in my belly about this. I'm so like, it's my main thing. But you know, these things starting from puppyhood, when you bring home that sweet innocent puppy, you know, we are responsible for making sure that they have the best life possible, and we do not set them up to fail as teenagers. And when we do, we only have ourselves to blame, or the vets, the groomers, the trainers who allow puppy parties. You know, it has such a fundamental change on socialization and welfare, and scientists studied this. And I've got links to papers where scientists have studied this and the cause and effect of puppy parties, and then developing a reactive adult dog. And it's so sad because, you know, if we've done puppy culture, and if breeders have done their utmost to protect mum, make sure nothing happens while she's pregnant, so the puppies don't become reactive, you know, through brain development, and then they've done everything in their power to socialise puppies properly, and then owners take them, throw everything out the window that the breeders have done, and then start doing puppy parties and things, and that puppy's just been set up to fail. And I personally, like, you know how I feel, like, I'm so
Yeah, but it's because they're not all managed
passionate.
well. They're not managed well, are they? A lot of them. That's the main issue. It's just like put them all in a room and let them off lead and have a good time. That's not what it should be like. That is not the main aim of having of these. So what they should be, dogs should be on lead, and they should be brought into the environment in a safe sort of way. They should not be just let into a room and just all let off lead and a free for all of all different size dogs. That's not what puppy social should be at all, and that's the misconception that people think. And not all dogs are social, just like not all humans are social, and that's a really important factor here. Is your dog social? Maybe not, because they're not all wanting to go meet other dogs, and they may not ever want to go meet other dogs, especially dogs that they've had bad experiences, rescue dogs. They may never be in a situation that's social. And that's something that owners seem to not always grasp, do they, Tasha? They kind of think, oh, well, I'll just keep pushing them, we'll just keep going to this and we'll keep going to that and pushing them to go meet other dogs, and it'll come right. Sometimes you just can't. It just gets worse and worse. I've got quite a few anxious dogs. I wouldn't ever dream of putting them in a social situation, because that would set me back so much. They're happy just going on a night on their own and having a nice walk, not meeting any other dogs, and that's fine for them. Some people like to go to parties and some people like to go to libraries, and exactly the same with dogs. They have their own personalities and they all should be treated as individual. You need to look at that dog in question and think, does this dog like to socialise, or is it a dog that likes to just sit and chill and have a nice time on their own with their owners? And if so, don't push that dog to go to any sort of social event, because it's going to end in disaster.
Yeah, because on the other hand as well, like, if you was to analyse puppy parties and puppy socials, and like you say, puppies just let off to run riot. My puppy classes are very different. So we do training, we do free work, and we do have play, but we have play for like 5 minutes at the end once they're very tired because they've been working their brain so hard. And then as soon as any body language changes, which is negative, and all the puppies are back on the lead.
Yeah.
This sets all the puppies up to succeed. And as far as I know, none of the puppies have ever gone on to become reactive. And I'm in touch with nearly every single owner that's ever been to the puppy classes. And that's setting puppies up to succeed. And then if we look at Coppinger and Coppinger, two scientists who went over to like Indonesia and villages in the third world, they observe dogs, and without sounding horrible to anyone or like blowing anyone's mind, puppy parties basically come back down to the guy who said that dogs are related to wolves and that we have packs. Because if you're saying that puppies need to play and socialize with every dog that meet, it's the same as pack theory, dominance. I mean, so many owners say that their puppies are dominant and they're really not. It's like zoomies, it's playing, it's the misunderstanding from the humans. But what Carpenter found in their studies, and they did this for years, was they observed village dogs at quite a distance, and they will notice that one dog will go and scavenge, and then another dog might go and scavenge. And the only time that dogs ever met up in a group is if they all just happen to be there at the same time, being opportunistic for food. They didn't live in groups, they didn't play in groups, they didn't do anything as a group of dogs together. So again, everything we know about dogs is completely wrong, and this information has come from the TV, and it's come from, you know, the general public's misconceptions, thinking that dogs are pack animals, and they're really not. And as you said, like, not all dogs want to play with other dogs, and there's no battling through it or getting through it. If a dog does not want to play with another dog, they just don't, and it's a humanizing thing to do. So reactivity in a lot of adolescents can come from that, because they've been to puppy parties, because they've been exposed in the wrong ways. And you know, and then when you book a trainer and behaviorist, you know, then we work really hard to get your puppy or your adolescent dog to cope with the environment. And you might be pushing, and I've had this pushing socialization with all dogs, and we're going to be fighting back 10 times harder than you, saying, no, we're socializing into the environment. We're making your dog feel safe when you go for a walk. Where you go for walks, making your dog feel safe. Your dog does not have to interact with other dogs, because that's filling the emotional bucket and making them frightened. So this is why we say, like, you know, we have to make sure we read dogs as individuals, and we really need to start understanding them and taking note of what scientists have said and done, like Carpenter, like their work needs to be thrust down everybody's throats. Breeders should be putting this into their puppy send away packs and saying, you know, your puppy is not a social animal. Dogs are not social beings. You know, and dogs live with us, and that's all well and good, but we're their family. You know, and then the other problem that we get quite a lot is that dogs from foreign countries come over, and they are all typically adolescents. So not only are you taking on a dog that was bred outside, because it's normally an accidental litter because they're strays, and also these people in these countries are professional breeders, and when the puppies do not match the breed standard, they took the puppies out into the street. So this is actually how these countries are getting stray dogs and further puppies down the line. So obviously these pedigree dogs that are rejected and not wanted learn to thrive on the streets, and they don't know to mate with their same breed, so they mate with any dog, which is why they end up with so many crossbreed dogs in these countries. But these dogs have adapted and evolved, just like Carpenter studied in the 70s, to survive out on the streets and be scavenging dogs and village dogs. So when we bring them over to this country, we're not only bringing a terrified adolescent dog over, we're bringing a dog who has probably had zero human contact other than in the kill shelter in these foreign countries. And then when owners get frustrated and ring us and say, like, you know, they can't get anywhere near this dog, well, no, because if you think about the trauma that these dogs have been through so that we can adopt them, it's awful. And clients getting upset that, you know, these Romanian dogs don't want to socialize. Well, no, because in their own countries, when they were free, they wouldn't have socialized either. And that is something massively that we need to take into consideration. So if you do have an adolescent dog who doesn't want to socialize with dogs, is reactive, doesn't want to be fussed by people, we need to respect this and stop seeing it as a defect in the dog or a problem. Because, for example, and I do this quite a lot at classes and one-to-ones, and then they get it. But if your adolescent dog is frightened of people, that's because this in your face is terrifying. And that probably just made you feel really uncomfortable, and that's through camera. And I have anxiety, so I relate to these dogs a lot. But to me, that's terrifying. I don't like people hugging me at all. So for a dog who's on the floor and someone's towering over you to shove their hands in your face, they are going to use their communication system, which is barking, growling, lip curling, snarling, freeze, going into flight. And that doesn't mean the dog's effective. It means that the dog is making a choice. And this is where we need to be much more respectful of dogs as a whole, and especially our adolescent dogs, and stop thinking that they are broken because they are communicating as a dog should.
It's the same with like cuddling as well, isn't it? Not dogs, all dogs like to be cuddled and managed in that way. And that's sometimes hard, especially with people that have children. It's sometimes hard to tell them, you know, that there's boundaries here. You know, you can't have kids laying on dogs and getting in their space, because that's when you start getting reactions from the dogs. And it can be pretty scary when your dogs, especially a dog that's been sort of brought up around the child, they've had it from a really young age, and then all of a sudden it just snaps. And that might be because it's just the child's crossed the boundary and gone into the bed and tried to cuddle the dog. You know, they don't all like it, do they? Not, you've got to give them choice. A lot of dogs aren't given choice. Same with little dogs. I'm guilty of it sometimes, you know. I've got little dogs, and sometimes we pick them up, and not all little dogs like being picked up, you know. And you've got to give them that choice. And it can take a long time to give a dog choice, can't it, Tasha? If a dog's not used to having choice previously. You know, especially a little dog that's been used to being picked up a lot and carted about, giving them choice and sort of sort of getting them to do things independently after a long period of not doing things independently can be quite a long process, can't it?
Well, yeah, because it's scary because you change all their norms and values, and it's a lot for them to take in. Because imagine if you've got a bucket and it's empty, but this is your dog's brain, and then you keep forcing them to do things that they don't want to do, and you're pouring water into that, and you're not respecting the species of the dog. Eventually, it's going to overflow, and this is when bites happen. Yeah. And it's because the emotional blockage has not been respected and it's overflowed, and that, you know, that's why they go one step further, because they're giving you 7 different signals that they're not okay, and it's all been totally disregarded.
And you've also got to remember the kind of day that dog's had. So they could have just had a really bad day, couldn't they, Tasha? And it's a bit like us, say you got in the car in the morning, your car wouldn't start, and then you went to the supermarket and somebody shouted you down the aisle, and then you came back out and then it rained on you, and then you went somewhere else and somebody else shouted at your post office, and you've had a really bad day and you feel agitated. It's the same with dogs. If they've been out on a walk and they see there's a human that's gone like this in their face, and then they've been to another park and a big dog's gone up to them and like scared them, shocked them, and then they've gone a little bit further and a dog's barked at them through the gate. It's the same concept. It's a lot. So consider, like, when you've been on your walks, how is this dog feeling? Maybe we need to go back home, and this is a bit too much. You know, consider what's happened on your walks. Absolutely. That could be scary at the wrong time of day. You know, you could run into all sorts out there. So if it's got too much, go home. It doesn't mean you failed your walk. You know, you've just got to be considerate of how the dog's feeling at that time. And like you've got to think, if this was me and had a really bad day and all this stuff had happened to me, I'd want to just go home. And that's what we've got to remember.
Yeah. And like when people say that, you know, their teenager dog is throwing a death one on recall, or they're chewing things up in the house, and they're doing things that they shouldn't be doing, we have to break this down, and owners need to be so much more understanding. So, for example, your dog's bladder isn't fully developed till they're 9 months old. And if you've got a puppy and it happens to fall through winter and you can't be bothered to go outside with the puppy on a lead because leaf, butterfly, oh my gosh, a little bit wind, I've got to follow that scent. You know, again, species, they're doing genetic appropriate behaviours for their species. And if you don't take puppy out on a lead, let them sniff, and you wait, and you wrap up warm, and you wait until they've started weeing and pooing to praise them, and then give them treats, then you're the one failing, not the puppy, because the puppy is doing everything that comes naturally to them. And we have got to change how people believe and what they expect of puppies. So if that poor little puppy's bladder has not developed to 9 months old in their bowels, how can we expect them not to have accidents? You know, and if we're not doing our best to make sure that we praise them and encourage them when they do go outside to the toilet, then we only have ourselves to blame, not the puppy. You know.
There's other things with toileting as well, because it might not necessarily be that the bladder hasn't developed. It could be that they're feeling anxious and they've toileted, or something scary's happened. You know, it might just not be that they're just toileting. You know, you get a lot of people say, just toileting everywhere. It's pooing here, it's weeing there. I just don't know what to do. It's just happening. Right, well, take a step back. Is it because the bowels aren't developed? How long can they hold it for? Or is it because something bad's happening, or they're terrified, or you've left them and they've got separation anxiety? There's a bigger picture behind it all. They may be toileting because they can't see you and you need to the loo, and they're like, where's mum? Oh, I better poo, I'm scared. You know, it can be lots of things.
There's UTIs, Giardia, you know, bacterial infections. You know, so if something's out of the normal for your puppy, you need to take them to the vets to get checked, and that has to be within your budget of owning a puppy. So if a behavioural change occurs, you need to go to the vets. And like Natalie said, there's several reasons why a dog may be toileting in the house. Somebody recently contacted us, really angry that their puppy was nervous weeing because she constantly had visitors around. I mean, through a lockdown anyway. But having visitors around, and all these visitors were doing was like picking up the puppy and smushing it and terrifying it. It was weeing everywhere because he was scared. And trying to say to this person to like put the puppy in another room, give him escape route. You know, this puppy is not coping, and she wasn't having any of it, would she? Like, she just thought this puppy is a boy, and it's not okay. We do have to consider how our home is. If we're inviting everybody around, then maybe she shouldn't have a dog. We have to take into consideration their needs, and again, they're not social creatures like us.
There is definitely a misconception about weeing when people come into the house, because people think, oh, they're just excited, and it's not all. You know, sometimes they're just terrified. It's not an excited wee. You get a lot of people saying, oh, they've done an excited wee, sorry about that. They're not excited, you know, and that's not always the case. Sometimes it can be that they're just scared.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the other thing when they're scared as well is what's happening. Are you shouting at them? Are you crouching over them? Are you saying that they look guilty and they're clearly not? Are you whipping out your phones to make a funny social media video saying, what have you done? All these things contribute to the puppy's behaviour and their developmental phases and how they're going to perceive us. And if we are doing things like that, again, it's only us to blame. If it is a behavioural change, if something's happened, it's a vet job. And, you know, and the vets will do lots of tests to find out what is wrong and if anything is seriously wrong. That's what vets are there for.
We do get a lot of pushback when we say go to the vets as behaviourists. We say go to the vets, get everything checked out. I'm like, oh, there's not wrong with them. They're not limping. They don't seem to be like in pain. It's not always what you can see. Sometimes it's something else, you know. Some dogs have bad teeth, for example. A lot of small breeds have bad teeth, and it can be as simple as a bad tooth, and that can cause major upset and some serious behavioural things. It could be that the knees are sort of popping out or something, or it can be anything, can't it, Tasha, that can be causing the pain, but we just can't see it just because we can't see it. It's like if we're in pain, you can't always see that we're in pain unless we tell you, oh, my side's hurting, you know. It's not always a visual, and that's what we've got to remember, that's why it's so important. We're not just saying it for the sake of it. We're not sort of saying go to your vets first because we're putting you off and saying just like trying to sideline you. We're trying to do it for your best interest, because we have to rule out anything medical to start with. Otherwise, whatever plans we put in place won't work anyway, because this medical condition is going to be in the way of us making any plans and moving forward. So that needs to be resolved in the first instance. And that's why we have to work well with vets and make sure that we communicate well and send people to vets in situations like this, because it's so important that we rule out anything medical, because otherwise we're not setting a dog up for success.
No, between us, we've saved clients an absolute fortune. I mean, the amount of messages we've had back or phone calls saying, you were so right, the vet found a UTI, so it's not behaviour after all, thank you so much. Or, you know, oh God, the dog, you know, they found that the dog's got hip dysplasia, something like that, and the breeder's really freaked out because they did all the tests.
Yeah.
You know, and just because a breeder does all the tests and stuff doesn't mean that there can't be a puppy who has a throwback of a genetic problem. And the dog doesn't have to limp because dogs hide pain really, really well. And are we surprised? I mean, they have to live with us. And, you know, we're not very understanding of their needs for a start. So are we surprised that they hide pain? You know, and this is why it's so important to make sure that dogs go to the vets and are checked over thoroughly. Like Coda, lots of people who know me know that Coda, my eldest wolf dog, put me through absolute hell. Like, I met her at 2 days old and I went round every fortnight to spend an entire night with her. I mean, like from 5 o'clock in the evening till gone midnight, spending that amount of time with her to get to know her, to build a relationship with her, all of this. As soon as she came home, she was a devil from the moment that she came home. I loved her behaviour because of like the behaviours that she would throw out was amazing. Like on memories yesterday, it popped up that I'd given her 2 puzzle games, and she's like 10 weeks old, and she goes up to these puzzle games and flips them over, so she can instantly access the food. I think you loved it. You loved the video when I shared it. But yeah, so she knows as a 10-week-old pup, flip them over. I haven't got to spend my time turning it around my nose. That's stupid. She will bite constantly. She constantly needed attention in the wrong way. She had accidents inside because she's a puppy. Horrible separation anxiety because she's a wolf dog. So going from having a spaniel mix who was a dream from day one, and then I've got this puppy who was just like, don't cuddle me, don't touch me, rah, rah, rah. Everything's on my terms. I'm gonna make your life live in misery. Put down a water bowl. She dug it all out every single time without fail. So instead of getting cross with her, and obviously she's a wolf dog, so it's different again with the behaviours, it was okay. So what can I do to make Coda's life better? You don't like being left alone. Okay then, so you can come to work with me. When you can't come to work with me, or when you can't come to a doctor's appointment, we're going to work so hard on crate training. You're going to love your crate, and it's going to be a really nice place for you, and you're going to feel so safe in there. Okay, so you want to chew on me? Have a frozen chicken wing or a chicken leg instead. Nature's Menu do a whole range for raw-fed dogs of frozen bones that are puppy appropriate, age appropriate, breed appropriate. That helped me out with all of that stuff. You want to dig the water bowl? That's all right, kid. What we'll do is we'll put a paddling pool that is plastic in the garden, and we will fill it with floating dog toys. You want to dig? Okay, so we'll get you a sandpit and we'll make sure that you can dig to your heart's content. So instead of getting cross with her for her behaviours, everything was, how can we manage this? How can we fulfill this need that she has? You want to destroy stuff? Okay, we'll keep buying teddies from the charity shop. You can destroy them, decapitate them, pull the stuffing out. We don't care. And this is the difference. We're not getting mad. We're not punishing the behaviours. We're saying, okay, so this is your nature. Let's fulfill that nature. On walks, you know, her prey drive was through the roof. So it was like, okay, then, so let's look at tugging off toys then. You want to chase fluffy things? We'll make sure that we've got fluffy things on us. Very independent of walks. Okay, cool, that's your choice. You know, so it was about training her, managing her puppy classes. She was terrorized all the adult dogs. I mean, because obviously all the humans want to fuss this little wolf dog. And this Labrador called Red, golden client, absolutely love Mel, she's brilliant. Got a red Labrador called Red, and he's been coming to my classes for years and years and years. Mel, obviously in love, Red's in love with every puppy that he meets. And this terror is pulling his ears, biting his ankles, his legs. So every time she did this, it's like, okay, back on the lead, we need to decompress you, we'll give you a toy to chew on, sort of thing. No punishment. She's not getting punished for these behaviours. She's getting taught that this isn't appropriate. We'll give you something appropriate to do. And this is the point, that we help our dogs with appropriate outlets instead of punishments, you know. And now Coda is an absolutely fantastic dog. It's like when she's 12 months, something just switched in her head, and now she's training to be an assistance dog. But the difference in the puppy, if you look at the videos of her as a puppy, everyone's like, I don't know how you cope with her like that. And you look at her now, and people can't believe the difference, can they, Natalie?
Yeah.
And I honestly do believe it is through matching her outlet. So when I got Django, her brother, walk in the park, and then we got Zombie, but Zombie's very different because the breeder's husband had to have facial reconstruction surgery. It was a horrible time. So they didn't get everything that Coda and Django had when they was being raised as puppies. And we think Zombie's genetically nervous, and then nobody wanted him because he's got double dew claws. When it came up to 12, 13 weeks old, they asked me if I knew anyone who wanted him. So I was trying to find him in a really good home. Nothing turned up, so we ended up having him. And he's a genetically anxious dog. So raising Zombie again has been completely different. And Zombie can't cope with people. He can't cope with other dogs. That's fine. He cannot cope going out in daylight, and he can only cope going out in the dark. That's fine. That's his choice. It's whatever makes Zombie happy. And Zombie is very much a very mouthy puppy still. So he's 2 years old in July, but he still thinks he's a puppy and he's still very mouthy. And we've actually learned this is communication, that he's overwhelmed, he's not sure what to do. So we whip out the toys. He cries when he wants his meals. He cries when he wants to go for a walk. He cries when he wants to do training, because Zombie, the way that we've raised him, he's learned to have a very, very good communication system as to what he does and he doesn't want. But if Zombie doesn't want to do something, he's also learned to put the brakes on. So again, like trying to take him out for a walk in daylight, he'll have the harness and the lead on because he's compliant, but then he'll put the brakes on. So he's not going anywhere. He's not being forced to go for a walk. And yes, we do encourage that behavior and we condition that behavior and we reinforce it, but that's because it's his communication system and he communicates so well. And if he's communicating this well, that means that we're never going to be pouring into his emotional bucket more than what he can cope with. And this is what I mean. It's about changing the way that we are raising these dogs. We expect them to live with us, so we have to meet their needs as a species.
Yeah, definitely. I think my worst one's been Norma, to be fair, because me and Tasha, we did different stuff with Norma, didn't we, to what I'd done previously with puppies. So she was my first sort of super confident dog that I bred. And she's turned out now really, really well, hasn't she, Tasha? And she does a lot of stuff that, you know, tricks and stuff, that she picks stuff up fast, but she's still in that sort of adolescent stage, so she's still on the edge of it, isn't she? So she still does stuff that tests her patience, so to speak, but she's calming down now and she's coming out of her shell. But I'm so glad that she was like that, because she's so confident now. So I'm glad that she was a nightmare, because it's turned out now that she's absolutely ace at stuff and she's confident, and that's what I wanted out of her. And I think we've got to be mindful. A lot of owners, like when choosing a dog, they don't always choose for what they're wanting out of that dog. So sometimes the dog doesn't fit with that individual's lifestyle. So if someone likes to go on really, really long walks and likes to be really social, and then they pick an anxious dog, it's not going to work in that mix. And that's sometimes hard for people to grasp, you know. You've got to sort of pick the personality of yourself and what you want out of your dog. And that's not, a lot of breeders just willing to sell a puppy, but they don't think about the bigger picture of, is this dog suitable for the human's lifestyle? You know, a lot of people on farms are willing to sell collies, for example, to people living in city centres, and adapting to an urban life is really, really hard, and they don't tell them about how hard it's going to be to adapt to that. You know, I wouldn't sell one of my chihuahuas to somebody who wanted to go hiking, for example, because they're just not going to be capable of doing long hikes and going on these massive walks up Pennygen. You know, it's just, they're just not set up for it. So I wouldn't sell the dog to them. you know, but people would because they want the money. And that's the other scary thing in it, Tasha, that people just want money, regardless whether the dog fits with that person's personality or what they're wanting out of that dog. So if it's the same with like dog sports, if you want a dog to do a dog sport with, you pick a dog that's suitable for that sport. You don't buy a dog that's not suitable and then try and fit him into that lifestyle. It's not going to work, not at all. And a lot of people think that they can do that, you know. It's like me saying, oh, I'm going to get my anxious dog to do agility. We're going to go agility every Thursday. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen at all. And it's heartbreaking if you've only got one dog and you've got your dreams set on going and doing all these things and you can't. It's heartbreaking, isn't it, Tasha?
Yeah.
That's all you want out of them. And that's where it becomes really difficult, having that sort of realization that maybe this isn't the right dog for my lifestyle, you know?
Yeah. See, because I came into your life when you had Norma's litter, didn't I? So you was asking me about like what I thought about this, that, and the other. We had lots and lots of one-to-one sessions via Zoom, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we decided to raise Norma my way. And that's why you say that she's absolutely crazy. And why we did things differently. But she's the most confident child that you've ever had rescued or bred. And Norma wouldn't be suited to a life where she's going to be treated like a handbag dog, because she's a very active, intelligent little dog, and she does tricks, parkour, canine conditioning. Like, she's on everything, isn't she? She's so clever.
She does not like being picked up at all. It makes her really uncomfortable if I try and pick her up or move her. If I was to pick her up, try and carry her somewhere, she doesn't like that at all. She likes to have choice and she likes to go and do what she wants to do. Whereas some of my other ones are quite anxious, are quite happy. They'll sort of shimmy to the side and like, come on then, I'm ready to get picked up. And then I know that they're happy to get picked up in that situation. And I read the situation now and think, okay, you want to get picked up. Savannah especially, she'll sort of move towards you and then just shimmy, stand at the side here and she'll be like, are you picking me up? And that's fine. That's her choice. She's telling me, pick me up, Mum. I want you to pick me up now. But Norma, she won't come near you to get picked up. She's not interested in getting picked up. She wants to do her own thing. She's got her own life. So, and that's her choice. And then I've had another letter recently with Stella, and she's the same. She's super, even more confident than Norma. And she's tiny compared to Norma, but she bolts around like there's no tomorrow. She's up and downstairs. She's doing everything. She's brilliant. Whereas
little boy as well.
Little boy who's gone to a new home with children, and he's doing fantastic as well. And he's super confident. Which from my first litter that I had, my very, very, very first litter, which was years ago, but that's something. It wasn't anything I did genetically. That litter is very, very nervous, isn't it, Tasha? So I have. Well, two of them are very nervous, one extremely nervous, and one, which is Charlie, she's quite confident, isn't she, Tasha? And she does okay, she copes quite well. Pablo, it's taken me quite a long time, hasn't it, to get him confident, but he's getting there now. He's doing lots of stuff, going out on walks. Betty is extremely anxious. Like, I'm not sure, like, how far we'll get with Betty, but I would have never taken her out. I wouldn't take her out on a walk. And some people go, you don't take her out on a walk. But for her, that's super scary. And I don't want to put her in that situation. She's quite happy playing in the garden with the other dogs. And that's enough exercise for her and doing a training and enrichment. So it's not always, it doesn't always mean you have to go on a walk, does it, Tasha?
No, some dogs just can't cope with it. Some dogs just find the world way too frightening and scary. And, you know, Yellow Dogs charity is amazing because it's for nervous dogs. And people are like, so reactive then? No, nervous. There's a massive difference. And when we say reactive, it's the wrong label anyway, because a dog is reacting to the situation using their communication system to express how they feel. Same as us. If we get wolf whistled at by construction workers, then you're going to give them the middle finger. If you're in the supermarket and someone pushes you, you're going to turn around and go, oi. So why is it acceptable for humans to use their communication system be it rude or polite or whatever, but dogs can't use theirs. So a dog may politely say, I'm giving you lots of body language signals that I'm not okay, and I'm expecting them, so now I'm getting mad, now I'm getting road rage, and now I'm going to end up biting because you've just been ignoring me. So we have to think of it like that and change how we raise our dogs and what we expect of them. And teenage dogs really are not out to get you. Their agenda has changed. So puppies typically run around at your feet, follow you everywhere. So when you go for a walk, let them off a lead and they run around your feet. It's because the environment is scary and the world is a big scary place. They're not brave enough or confident enough, remember those fear phases, to go and play with other dogs. And obviously, it's not the case for puppies, but most. This is a generalization, just to try and explain. And then when 5, 6 months old comes up, 7 months old for some dogs, depending on their development ratio, they do run off. And then this is when you start realizing, crap, I should have stuck with dog training classes. Oh no, what am I gonna do? That squirrel literally is so much more interesting than me, and the dog's not listed, and they're gone. Uh-oh. And this is what I mean, and we've got to stop taking it for granted that we think we know everything, because even trainers of behaviors don't know everything. So we know offense dog owners, you guys definitely don't know everything. And you think you might know your puppy and you don't. And what a puppy might find exciting, the same as us as a child, adults aren't excited about Christmas like we was when we was kids. It's the same thing for a puppy. You're boring now. They are literally teenagers slamming that bedroom door in your face and turning Led Zeppelin up full blast. Because their environment is exciting, and as a species, if they was raised in the wild, this is exactly the behavior they'd be doing. They'd be following scents. They'd be chasing off to go and greet another dog because they're not being held back with a lead. And then when the human is screaming and shouting abuse at the puppy because they've run off, hell no, are they coming back to you because you're scary and abusive. So the dog has common sense to stay the hell away from you. And not many people know or are educated to know about like games like lead on, lead off, to show and build trust with a dog. So when they're let off the lead, and what I typically, because I live behind a park, and what I see is people get to the park entrance, let the dog off the lead, Fifi, 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 come back, Fifi, straight away. And I'm just like, no, let your dog run. You've let it off the lead. So that means I've said you can run around the field to your heart's content, sniff things, explore, be a dog. No, within 0.01 seconds, they're calling Fifi back and expect Fifi to go back on the lead. How is that fair? So, of course, Fifi's then going to give them the middle finger and say, screw you. And then when they're saying, like, the dog is clearly running back to them and bouncing away again, and it's a big game, that's because they're still telling you to go screw yourself because they do not want to go back on the lead. And also, your dry biscuits from the pet shop that cheap and nasty ain't good in it. So that's another thing I don't understand that. And it's not just as a raw feeder either. I've always like used chicken, cheese, hot dogs, nice things. I've never used biscuits. But why the hell should a dog work for biscuits when that's the nasty crap that they get in their dinner bowls? Do you see what I mean? Like, if you want your dog to do something and work for you and respect you, pay them. We don't go to work for free. So we get paid. And for a dog, payment is chicken, hot dogs, cheese, bacon, really, really nice things, dehydrated treats, 100% natural meaty treats, not your baker's crap and your pedigree crap and your pets at home crap and your cheap pet shop knockoff crap. It doesn't cut it. It's boring. It's flavourless. Probably contains hardly any scent. Or your fresh meats too. And it's like £1 for chopped up chicken from Tesco's. I know what I'm using instead to keep my dog's attention. And I've got breeds that apparently never supposed to be allowed off lead. Well, they are, and they come back every time. And they're amazing. And they do heel work off lead because we have high value reinforcing food. And they are paid. And we also carry tugging off toys with us because they are paid because that is a part of their reward system. And I'm paying into that bank account. And this is another stereotype we've got to change. Stop giving pet shops your money for nasty biscuits that your dog's not going to come back for. Start changing your value system and examining the species, and good dog trainers and behaviours will help you to get there. And if your adolescent dog has no recall, is reactive, is not coping with the environment, go book a private dog field. They're enclosed, you pay for the hour, you drive up, there's normally a padlock combination, they give you the code, you go in, and it's just you and your dog for the hour where they can smell other dogs, wildlife, and just be a dog in safety for a full 1 hour, and they can burn off all that energy. And my clients have taken so much advantage of the secure fields around here and have much better relationships and behaviours with their dog through not taking them to the beach to go and get attacked by other dogs or get themselves into trouble, you know. And this is how the world is changing, because we understand so much more about dogs now. And if we didn't understand this about dogs, there'd be no need for private dog fields. You know, it would be safe to go down to the beach, which is 5 minutes away, but it's not, because every single one of my dogs has been attacked on the beach, and that's not okay. So there is a call for private dog fields so that we can enjoy our dogs. They can enjoy being out without anything horrible happening to them. And we need to normalise that it's normal for our dogs to go out and not expect to be attacked, not expect our strangers to come up and terrorise them. That's not okay.
Mm-hmm. And don't be ashamed to get your long lines out. You know, you may have used it when they were little to practice, and then you got good, and then it's okay to get it back out again.
Absolutely.
No, don't be ashamed of getting it back out. There's no shame in it at all. If they've gone self-employed, get it back out. Otherwise, you'd be stood there shouting and screaming, wondering where you went wrong. You know, there's no harm in it whatsoever. Just get it out for that couple of months till you get past it, and then you can take them off again. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I've gone back to long line with Django until recently, because through lockdown, with obviously how quiet it was, Django was going self-employed and chasing rabbits, because there's been a lot more rabbits out, because obviously with lockdown there's no kids to terrorize them. And he was like, oh, I'm gonna go chase a rabbit. So it's like, okay, dude, so you can't hear me when you're excited because your natural instincts taking over, which is releasing massive doses of dopamine, and I'm never gonna be a massive dose of dopamine to you. So, you know, we'll get that long lead back out to set you up for success and so that you don't fail. And now he's back off a long line again, but teenage dog. And this is the other thing as well, with dopamine for a dog, we're never gonna surpass that. So when we get dopamine rushes, like when we go to the gym, so if you're a runner, you know what I mean. So I used to run before I was disabled, and you do get this crazy dopamine rush when you're doing 10Ks, and there's nothing that can replace that feeling. For people who don't run, if you drink and then you get that little buzzy feeling before you start acting crap, that's your dopamine release, basically. That's why people do drink, and that's why it's addictive, because it's the same thing. So if we're getting that as human beings, we have to understand, if nothing can replace that for us other than running or drinking, for example, why do we think we're going to replace that dopamine rush for our dogs? And again, it's respecting their species and their instincts, and their species and instinct is to chase. All dogs have prey drives. Doesn't matter what dog it is, even if they don't have a prey drive which has been reinforced and rebred in by the breeders, they still have a prey drive. Your chihuahuas have prey drives, but they was bred initially in Mexico as like the Mexican version of Jack Russells. They was meant to be ratters, and then they've been since changed to handbag dogs, but that innate prey drive is still there.
Yeah, definitely. I think people forget that. In certain breeds, they forget that there's a prey drive there. Chasing squirrels and stuff. Every dog's got it in them to some degree, whatever it may be. You just got to remember that they've got that regardless of breed or background.
Yeah, and every pedigree breed was bred for a purpose. Poodles, they weren't used as grooming models. They was actually used to herd and to be guard dogs. Poodles used to be known as quite aggressive boxers. Boxers were used for pulling carts. You know, and these dogs have not been bred to just be companions to humans. Labradors used for birds. duck tollers were used to do crazy dances on the shorelines to get the birds to come in to say, like, what you doing? Run back to the handler. The handler then shoots the birds, and then the dog goes and retrieves. So they had a dual job to do. So they're not just beautiful ginger and white dogs. They had a super important job to be doing over in America. And the main thing is that these dogs are bred and breeders pick these traits because the dogs have got a job to do. And if it is retrieving or if it is taking down prey, you know, and the breeders have kept breeding this into the dog, the genetics are there. Because obviously, like, dogs don't come out fully trained, but the genetics are there. So I love seeing the farmers' videos or border collie breeders who are very ethical breeders, and they show a 7-week-old border collie puppy being put in a pen with a few goats. And the puppy's natural instinct as part of their temperament test is to run around and herd the goats. So the puppy that shows the most drive are the ones that they then keep and will go into their breeding program. And the puppies who have no interest or show fear, the ones that end up getting rehomed to pet homes. But just because it's been rehomed to a pet home does not mean that it doesn't need agility, flyball, herding, games, a decent amount of walks, enrichment. So they're not giving you a dog that's supposed to be a stuffed toy. They've just said that the dog's not cut out for this job. But please be mindful that this dog was actually bred for this purpose. And we don't know what the dog's going to turn out as like an adult. We're going on puppy value. The same as the police force. You know, 2 German Shepherd puppies might pass per year because they select the puppies as puppies. And then when the dog becomes an adult, they don't make the cut. You know, and then they've already rehomed some of the puppies who, you know, would have been tested to be amazing police dogs. It's just the way that it goes with temperament testing, unfortunately.
You just don't always know what they're going to turn. Some like litters I've had, the ones that have been anxious as babies have been the ones that have come out thriving, you know. So it's not all, personality can change at different stages. So as much as they may be sort of fearful to start with, they can become the most confident in the litter in the long run, depending on the work you put in as well. And that's the problem. Sometimes they change quite a lot. They can change quite a lot, and you've got to remember that. You know, it can vary completely.
Yeah.
What you're going to get.
And adolescent dogs, puppies, they're not out to get you. Sure, as humans, we get upset, we get emotional, but they are not out to get you. Yeah. And instead, if you have these preconceived ideas that you're not paying your dog's behaviours, just ask yourself, would you work for nothing? And the answer is always no, because I have this with clients all the time. I'm not treating my dog. I don't agree with it. Well, don't get a dog, then get a stuffed toy, because dogs need payments. You know, and if you don't want to feed the £1 crappy biscuits at the pet shop, use that £1 to go next door to B&M's and get £1 of fresh cut chicken. There's no difference. If you're spending £1 on crap treats, you can spend £1 on fresh breast chicken. It's going to keep your dog's attention. And you know, human food has come down a lot in price. Chicken is full of protein, there's no fat in it, so it's so much better for dogs in the long run. And lots of foods now have been proven to make dogs ill, for another thing. All about dogfood.co.uk, that told you everything you need to know about the things that you're giving your dog. And this is really important that we bear this in mind. And also, like, other things we get, like, the dog keeps going on the sofa. Of course they do. And of course they keep going on your bed, because we sweat. It's gross, but for a dog, again, it's their species. So if we're sweating on the sofa and we're sweating on bed, the dog wants to be as close to us as possible. So they are going to get on the sofa and they are going to get out on the bed. But dragging them off by their collars and then whinging when they bit you isn't okay. What we can do instead is make a decision. Why don't we want the dogs on the sofa? Is it because we've watched a certain few TV programs and we think that we have to be the pack leader and dominant and the alpha and all that crap? Because it is crap. Because as I said earlier at the start of the seminar, we have proven that, you know, wolves and dogs are not related at all, and using pack theory is ridiculous. And wolves aren't even packs as people stereotypically think. The alpha of a wolf pack is the mum. It's the female wolf. And she's only known as the alpha because she's the most important component to a pack. A pack of wolves is a family. So you've got mum and dad, you've got cubs, and then you've got the cubs who never left to make their own packs, or basically families. So they stay along and they help raise the next group of cubs and the next group of cubs. And they are a huge family. And they're not fighting to the death with other males to be the alpha and all that rubbish. It's literally alpha is mum, beta's dad. That's it. That's all we need to know about wolves, and they're a family. We need to stop putting these crappy ideas onto our dogs, and saying that they're dominating and they're trying to dominate us by being on the sofa in the bed. No, they're not. They want to snuggle up. They want cuddles. They want to be close to us, and that's not a crime at all. But we do need to speak to dog trainers and behaviourists about what we want to do if we don't want the dogs on the bed for safety reasons, such as asthma or allergies, or we don't want them on the sofa because of young children and that kind of thing. That's a completely different kettle of fish. But if you're just doing it because some TV show said to, or because your mum and dad used to, treat the dogs like this and then beat them with newspapers, we've come so far from that, and we don't do that. We don't endorse it at all. And this is what we're saying. We need to respect species of the dog. And like chewing, if your adolescent dog is chewing, why are they chewing? So whenever you speak to a trainer or behaviourist, we're never going to wave a magic wand, but we are going to ask a lot of questions, and you're going to fill in a lot of forms to give us a lot of history so we can understand what's happening. And you might not even understand what's happening. You might leave a question box blank because you haven't got the answer. But 9 times out of 10, when we start getting to the bottom of it, the poor dog is chewing because you've left them for too long while you've gone to work, and you think they should cope alone for 9 hours, or they're chewing because you've left things out. They don't know that your things don't belong to them. Dogs don't understand that. Dogs don't understand that cushions on a sofa aren't their toys. And dogs don't understand that their toy box is only their toys. They live in your house with you, so why the hell shouldn't they grab hold of all of your things? We have a responsibility to set them up to succeed. Are they chewing because they're stressed? Are they chewing because they haven't got any enrichment? Are they chewing because they're in pain and have got no other way to outlet the behaviour? It goes so deep, doesn't it, Natalie? Literally down a rabbit hole as to why a dog is given a particular behaviour.
But owners have to be honest.
Absolutely.
Ashamed, because we could be doing loads of work with a human, and then all of a sudden they'll say, actually, and that can be the absolute reason why it's happening. You've got to be honest with us, because if you're not honest, we can't help you. Covering stuff up with lies and saying that that's not happened or this doesn't happen, really, it doesn't help us in the slightest. We need to know absolutely everything, and guess what, we've probably heard it before, so don't be ashamed. Nothing surprises us. Just be honest. As scary as it is, you get lots of people like, let the dog sleep on the bed, and it's, so okay, it's not a bad thing, get over it, and they do, don't they, Tasha? They're like, let the dog sleep on the bed, and
they say like we're about to slap them.
And it's like, and cool, okay, don't worry about it, just be honest with us. And me and Tasha are both quite similar, we're quite blunt. We've got that kind of say how it is. Just tell us, we won't judge you, we've heard it all before. But if you're not honest with us, we can't help you fully.
And that's when you can't be blaming the trainer and behaviourist, because we see this on Facebook a lot, or we hear it. We went to several dog trainers and didn't do anything. And then you find out that actually this client is the worst person in the world, who goes and jumps between dog trainers looking for the dog trainer with the magic wand and never doing any homework, putting anything in, or ever being honest. And that makes our lives so much more difficult. And you might think that you're just slagging somebody off like you're slagging off an operator at Tesco's. We talk to each other, believe it or not. And we're also human beings, and you hurt us. So if you think twice and think, well, how do I feel finding out that I've been slagged off and been told that I'm terrible at my job? The door swings both ways. And we're not in this job to make money, because people seem to think that we're all rich, and we're really not. It's hand to mouth for us, isn't it? We're here to help you because we have the knowledge, the expertise, the qualifications, the insurance to help you with your dog. We do have most of the answers, not all the answers, because nobody does, but we do have a lot of the answers to how we can help you with your dog. The same as, and I always say this to my clients at classes as well, I always say to them as an icebreaker, what do you do for a living? And people say nurse, teachers, you know, factory operatives and all different jobs. And I'll say, I could never do that job, you know, but I don't presume to tell you your job. So if a nurse says that she needs to draw blood, I'm not going to say, and what you need to do that for? I'm going to say, okay, you draw that blood and do what you need to do. And I don't even want to know what they're doing with the blood, you know. But this is it. This is the point, isn't it? We don't question other people's occupations and why they need to do what they need to do. Because, like, I've got a friend who's a GP, and he's printed off Dr. Google, and he's framed it in his office because he's so fed up with as being a GP and people saying, well, I looked at Google, I'm going to die in 2 weeks of this. And he gets so frustrated because he's spent not only 7 years at university training to become a doctor, but he's also then done lots and lots and lots and lots of CPD over the years, like we do, you know, and it's costly for us, not for you. It doesn't reflect in the price. It costs us a lot of money to go and do CPD. We have to travel all over the country. We have to pay out a lot of money to do CPD, and it's just to keep up with modern techniques, modern methods, and, you know, keep refreshing our memories as to the behaviors that we're learning about, and if there's any new information that comes along about dogs and what scientists have been discovering through MRI machines and different tests and, you know, behavior testing, that sort of thing. And that's why we do know all of this stuff. And it's not to patronize you or to condescend you. It is because we give a crap about you and your dog. And that is 100% genuine. Everybody knows me, knows that I say you cannot be in this job unless you care about both the dog and the human. And if you don't like people, you shouldn't be in the job. So it's nothing against owners, because I'm the biggest advocate for humans. And I've had dog owners cry on my shoulder. I've had them cry at me early hours of the morning on the phone. I've had them send me messages at early hours in the morning because I care. And I would genuinely want to help. And I only have your best interests at heart, as well as your dog. And you're both as important, but we just have to make sure you've got all the tools and the knowledge to raise your dog appropriately and safely, so that you're not getting misdirected and bitten, and you're not having a hard time with your dog. And so that you enjoy each other so much. Because, like, when Natalie said about breeders, and, you know, you get a dog that you want to do everything with, and you find out that dog's not right for you, you should be interviewing breeders and saying to them, okay, I want a dog to do this, that, and the other with. Do you have a puppy that would suit me? And then they'll say, well, I'm very sorry that we don't, or we do, perhaps, but we're doing temperament testing. So we can let you know down the line if we're going to have a puppy who may be potentially suitable for you. But we can't give any guarantees until they're 18 months to 2 years old whether or not they're going to be suited in this sport. Because, you know, a lot of sports they can't do until that age, especially if they're large breeds. And this is the important thing to do. You know, we have to screen the breeders, and clients who say to me, oh, the puppy picked me, it ran straight up to me. That's not the puppy that you want. And people think it is, but it's not. You want the puppy who's quiet and reserved and is going to suit your lifestyle. And that puppy who's running up to you, who's super bulgy and confident, that is not the puppy that you're wanting to take home. But everybody does it. They say that the puppy picked them. And we go through this all the time, don't we, Natalie?
Yeah. And a lot of people pick for colour. As sad as it is, you know, especially, you know, in the French Bulldog world and things like that, at the minute, it's very dominated by colour specific, and people are chasing colours, constantly chasing colour. Some people chase males, people chase lilacs. So, you know, there's a lot of that going on, and that can affect things massively when you're chasing just colours. You know, oh, I want a blue Frenchie. Okay, have you thought about the temperament of the dog, or, you know, anything like that? And they don't care, they're bothered about colour. And unfortunately, there's a lot of breeds that are very led specifically for designer colour at the minute, which is scary, because then they're not going to the right homes at all. People are just buying for status. And that's also scary, you know, people are buying status dogs.
And the thing is, if you're buying a dog that is not the traditional colours, like Natalie's pointed out, you're getting a genetic defect dog. So a lot of the male border collies and dachshunds are being born blind and deaf because these genetics were never supposed to go together. And you know, there's been rules around for years and years and years. You never breed apple to apple because you'll end up with a deaf litter, or a blind litter, or both, and it's not fair to the dog. And I train both blind and deaf dogs who have amazing qualities of life, and that's not the point. But the point is, we need to make sure we back ethical breeding in the first place and not backyard breeding, because with backyard breeding, this is why dogs end up in rescues. And your true breeders, such as mine and Natalie, they take the puppies back. So if you decide at any point in your life you're getting a divorce, you're moving house, you're having kids, you don't want the dog no more for whatever reason, ethical breeders will always take the dogs back, and you will never find an ethically bred dog in a shelter or a rescue centre because the breeders will not allow it to happen.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I'm in a lot of breeder groups, and some dogs do get taken to shelters and stuff, and these breeders are chasing, where's this dog gone? Because I make people sign a contract saying, if you no longer want this dog, it's got to come back to me. It has to come back to me. And a lot of them don't, and then you see the people trying to track these dogs down. And it's sad because we don't judge you in any way. We just want the dogs back because we want the best for that dog in question. We're never going to judge anyone by saying, I'm pregnant and I can't cope and I need to give this dog back. Fair play, bring it back. Yeah, it doesn't matter at all. You know, we're not here to judge you. We just have the dog's best interests at heart. And most breeders are like that, but there are still backyard breeders. It isn't regulated yet. A lot of us have licenses, and you should have a license to breed dogs, but not all do. People are doing it still undercover. Yeah, it's scary.
And I know lots of breeders, like Natalie have said, who have paid hundreds and hundreds of pounds to a rescue once they've tracked down the microchip and found out which kennel that the dog has been surrendered to. And they buy the dog back from the rescue because it is their dog. And they'll waive the contract at the rescue and they'll threaten them with solicitors just to get the dog back. My friend's done this. She's recently taken back Anatolian Shepherd. The owner was awful to this dog, and as soon as Debbie found out, she's like, right, I arranged transport's coming today to come and pick the dog up. She's like 18 months old, but she did that because she knew that the puppy wasn't being treated right and this person wasn't the right owner for her. So she arranged transport out of her own pocket, picked her up, and she's not even going to resell her because she's been through enough. And she's been working with me to get the dog to be confident and doing things to reintegrate with her other dogs in the home and to decompress the dog. And Lily's amazing now. She's really, really come out of a shell after 3 months. But this is what you good ethical breeders do. And they will not let their dogs fall out under the radar in these rescue centres. They will pull them back, won't they, Natalie?
Yeah. Yeah. The people go so many lengths to try and find these puppies that have fallen into wrong hands. I see it every day on the breeding groups, and it's scary. So I'd be heartbroken if I found out that somebody had not said anything to me or something had gone wrong and they'd not said. You want to be there for people. And I bought dogs from all different environments, and some people just disappear off the face of earth, and some people you stay in touch with. And out of all mine that I've bought, only one person messages me, and that person's a good breeder, you know, and the rest of them have disappeared for dust. And that's really, really sad. And they're not the type of people you want to be buying dogs from. You know, the people who get in touch every 6 months and say, how are you getting on, or how are they doing, can I have a photo? And that's what it should be. That's what good breeders do.
My breeders insisted that before we even took the puppy home, before we even signed the contract, we had to join their group so that they can watch the puppies for the rest of their lives. And the breeders message me on a weekly basis, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. Diesel's breeder was terrible. Backyard bred. I didn't know any better at the time. I was young, and I just saw puppies in a shed, and you know, wasn't happy. Met him at 2 days old, and I felt like I needed to take a puppy. I was a bit of an idiot. but I took steps afterwards, and she's not bred since. So I'm assuming the steps that I took, meant that she hasn't repeated this behaviour. But these was an amazing dog. And some of us do get dogs because we feel under pressure and we want to pull them out of that crappy environment. And we're not trying to crucify people, we're trying to educate and support people with the way forward.
I've been there. Like Dolly, she was a rescue. I couldn't leave her there. Like we went to look at her, I had no intentions of I didn't know her situation before I got there. And then when I seen how she was living and what she was going through, I couldn't leave her there. And that's completely normal to feel like that. But sometimes as a pet owner, sometimes you've got to leave it because it's not good, and there's a reason why that's happening. Dolly's got her own problems and her own fears and anxieties, and it's taken me a long time to get through that. She was heartbreaking when I picked her up. I wish I'd taken videos of her when we brought her home. And I didn't actually have intentions on keeping Dolly. I wanted to make sure she had the right home. But after sort of looking after her, she ended up staying. I just needed to get her out of where she was. And is my house the right environment for Dolly? I sometimes said to Tasha, is it the right environment for Dolly? With her background and mine being so different. And it turns out it is the right environment for her now, and she's adapted really, really well. And I wouldn't change her for the world, but she's had a really bad life. She had a really sad life. And we're giving her a better one, but it's heartbreaking. And you see loads of people go to places and I had to just bring them home. And this is where puppies get picked up too early as well. So people are going to houses I've got to get rid of these dogs. They're 5 weeks old. I don't want them anymore. Need to go. That's bad. I don't let mine go till 12 weeks at least, because they need to have had that development and make sure they've got training in place, make sure they've got a really good strong toilet training behind them. That's a good breeder. That is a good breeder. A bad breeder is them that have got them at 5 week old and saying, take it, go on, take it away, not bothered, there you go. That dog's going to have problems in the long run. If you take dogs away from mum at a really early age and away from siblings, they can develop problems. Yeah. So it's really important where we get dogs from is also educate to owners, because there isn't a lot there for people to read about. They just go on Gumtree and they go on Pets for Homes and they see this little dog and they're like, oh, I want it. And they don't think about the long run effects of where did it come from and how could this impact the life of this dog in the long run.
No, it's really sad. And it's sad for the owners, because I've got some, again, golden clients who have gone to breeders, really well intentioned and loads of research, and just get a poor deal. And a lot of people focus on that as well, but we have to move past it. And it's like, okay, so you got you got crappy cards dealt. This is the situation that you're in. This is the behaviour that you're struggling with. Right, okay, let's forget the past, especially with rescue dogs, and let's move forward, make a behaviour modification plan. What can we do to make this dog's life better and to make your life better? And like I said, puppy blues are real. And I've had owners crying to me and they can't cope with the puppy. And the puppy's been too much for them, and the puppy's destroyed the house, and all these sort of things. And this is where it comes into management and your appropriate crate training and your appropriate outlets and your enrichment. And once you support owners with this, and they fly. They just needed the support in the first place to be able to get this relationship with their puppy. And then when you warn them and explain about adolescent dogs, and they're genuine and they do care about the welfare of their puppy and the relationship going forward, they're going to keep coming to training. I mean, we've had clients stuck with us my client's been with me since before lockdown, and then they've stayed all through online because they've needed that support, haven't they?
Yeah.
Their dogs are absolutely amazing. The changes in the behaviour and from rescue dogs, and and this is what it's all about, and supporting them to succeed and cheering them on, and supporting them when they are crying and when they are upset. And it's not about judging them or saying that they shouldn't have a dog or that they're crappy owners. It's like, okay, this is your situation and this is what we're going to do about it. We're going to be proactive and we're going to support you through this. And if you cry because you've got a puppy or a teenage dog, welcome to the club.
Mm.
I mean, I was exhausted raising puppies, and then I think I just laugh about adolescent behaviours because I went through so much with puppies that now teenagers, that's nothing. That's nothing. I'm all right with this now. I got this.
But people do forget. They forget, don't they, Tasha? Like, you could have a dog before and they completely forget what it's like.
Yeah,
And 9 times out of 10, they've been through it before. They've just forgotten.
yeah.
You know,
I
it's
mean, when
completely
people go
normal.
from having a 15-year-old Labrador who's passed away to suddenly getting an 8-week-old puppy, that's 15 years of forgetting how to raise a puppy and the hell that they put you through. And also, 15 years in the dog training world is a long time, and we have changed so much from then. So again, going back to whacking a puppy with a newspaper, that's not done. That's not acceptable. I don't think that's ever been acceptable for our generation, has it? I think that's
No.
like, for us, that's an old wives' tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's something that older clients do say that happened or happened in the past. And we don't support that. We don't respect it, and we don't advocate for it. And we do things so differently now. And 15 years ago, puppy pads didn't exist. Vet beds only became really popular 7 years ago.
Yeah, recently. In the last 5 years, definitely, vet beds become more and more popular. Um, it's definitely a breeder thing, but it's become more widely. You can get it everywhere now. Like, it's quite, you can get it in jollies and stuff, whereas before it wasn't really a thing to have or get. But yeah, there's so much change. Like, even from like the last 5 years, training's changed dramatically. You know, there's certain things that with different methods, and it's just changing all the time. And that's why trainers and behaviourists do continuous CPD, because it's always changing, new ideas, new developments, new studies. And that's why we keep up to date with all this stuff all the time. Because it's a forever changing industry depending on the research that's being done at that time.
Yeah, and the rules have even changed as far as vets. I mean, like, I know, like a few years ago, I was having the worst arguments with vets because I am staunchly against early neutering, and I know the damage that it does. It causes arthritis, it damages bones, it damages like physical and mental growth and development. And I do strongly believe and advocate for neutering at a much later age. And this nonsense about neutering when they're 5-6 months to a year old. No, I'm the wrong person to speak to when it comes to that. But the vets now are changing their stance, and I was with a big fight with them, and now the 3 vet practices in my area, they all know me. They're now a pain in the arse, and they are now refusing people who say they want to neuter their dogs early on, and they're saying no. Come back when your dog's 18 months. If it's a giant dog, no, come back when they're 3. And I may have had to be very shouty and loud and obnoxious, but I've done that for dog welfare, and now the vets have listened, and they're educating each other about, oh, we need to do some CPD because we didn't know about this. And if you're ignorant, that's fine, because you can't be punished for being ignorant at all. But when you do know, you've got a duty of care to spread the information. Like when Diesel was a puppy, and I took him to the vets, and they were saying, so first of all, they examined him, so they knew he was a boy. And the male vet was saying, she can get ovarian cancer, she can get this, she can get that. And I picked him up, and my friend was like, oh no, oh no. And I went, that's all well and good, but you recite like a parrot about cancers and various things because you clearly want £200 out of me to spay him. And I said, I don't think spaying will work anyway with him being a boy. And I stormed out. I was so angry. But that's the level of customer service that clients are getting from vets, or were getting from vets, and probably are still getting from a lot of vets, that they're recycling stuff, and he just misgendered my dog. I'd be really worried if they did try to spay my dog.
They don't even mention it to me anymore.
But this is the point, isn't it? It's so dangerous, and trying to say that your dog's going to get cancer, which we know is a complete lie. Dogs aren't at risk of cancer till 5-7 years old, scientists found, not genitalia wise anyway. And it's not okay. It's not okay to force these ideas onto people. So then owners end up neutering and spaying their dog at 5-6 months old, or even earlier, and end up with a reactive dog, because that is a consequence of early spay and neuter. And it changes it, because your dog isn't an adult when they're 2 years old, like the back of pedigree says. Your dogs aren't actually adults till they're 5. And their chemicals in their brains haven't finished developing till they're 5 years old. So neutering a puppy is like neutering a teenage human. We would never do it. It's not okay. It's not ethical. And we shout at third world countries for doing this. And, we sign petitions. Why do we allow it to happen to dogs? I mean, we've proven that dogs have the brain of a 2 to a 5-year-old child. So why are we letting them be neutered early on in age? And then we wonder why they become reactive after being neutered. And the amount of tears from phone calls I've had from clients, got my dog neutered and now it wants to kill every dog that it sees. Got my dog neutered and now it can't stand people and it wants to bite them, or it has bitten. My dog's attacked another dog and it was quite a bad attack. What happened? Neuter the dog. And it's so sad. It's horrible. And again, we've got a duty of care to educate not just the general public, but vets as well, and veterinary staff, so they stop spouting this crap for the sake of 200 quid. Because we don't want your money, clearly. Otherwise, we'd be doing the same as the vets, encouraging you to get that early spay and neuter, a reactive dog, to then employ us. And we don't want your money. We don't want you to have a reactive dog in the first place. We'd rather tell you the truth for your dog's welfare.
Definitely. It's a touchy subject, isn't it?
It very much is. But it's one that needs to be said.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't discuss these touchy subjects, dog welfare is just going to go by the wayside, because none of us dare speak about it. And if I end up being hated for it, then so be it. But a lot of people actually respect me for being so blunt and telling it how it is, rather than agreeing because I don't want to upset people, because I care about dog welfare. That's a big thing for me. And I don't want to see dogs being mishandled, mistreated, and then you end up having a reactive dog, which then you're looking to throw into the rescue or worse, euthanize. And vets will euthanize. They're supposed to have like this Hippocratic oath, but they will still euthanize, because again, it's cash and it's horrible. Dogs shouldn't be about money. Dogs should be our companions and a part of our families. And wherever I can, I will never ever stop advocating for their welfare, whether it's an unpopular opinion or not. Because it's not about money for me. It's about, being a good person and advocating for a species that can't speak for themselves. Someone's got to do it. The adolescent dog really isn't out to get you, and it may feel like it. Your feelings are valid, your mental health is valid, because that's not talked about enough. But there are lots and lots of us who will advocate for you and support you and teach you how to manage your adolescent dogs. And just realise you're going to be in it for the long haul. If they're not an adult till they're 5, that's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's okay to have tears.
Absolutely.
We've all been there, done it, got a t-shirt. It's completely normal. You just sometimes you go for a walk by yourself and reflect on it. And sometimes you just need half an hour away from it and just come back and be like, all right then. It is what it is. A lot of people keep pushing dogs, and they train all evening, don't they, Tasha? And it's just too much. Like trying to fix whatever they're trying to fix. Oh, this has happened today and I'm trying to fix this now. Go away from the situation for a little bit and come back into it, We
did minutes of training.
Yeah.
Minutes. You need to do hours, because they cannot cope with it. Minutes is enough for a dog to do training. Yeah. When you start trying to do hours and hours, they're bored. They've left the building. They're no longer interested. They've gone to displacement behaviours of sniffing the floor, mouthing, biting, because they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and you're in their space and you're not respecting that they've had enough. And dogs have been proven again to learn in very short bursts, not the way that humans learn. So,
definitely.
It's the same thing, isn't it, really? And if you are investing your hard-earned money into a dog training behaviourist, do yourself a favour, do research, look at the reviews. And if you see a crap review, just think to yourself, is this someone just being horrible and nasty and just, setting this person up to fail, or is this a genuine review? If they have 1 or 2 crappy reviews compared to 100, it definitely means that there's trolls, because we do get trolled a lot by competition, and they set up fake accounts to slag us off. And every dog trainer goes through this. It's horrible, and there's nothing that Google will do about it, because that's what Google's like. because of freedom of speech and all that crap. But just do yourself a favour, get a force-free dog trainer. Okay.
Remember, not everybody gets on, does it, Tasha? So,
No.
you know, somebody who's old school and only believes in rubbing their nose in it isn't going to get on with us that are fluffy and nice. And that's just how it is. And that person might leave a bad review because they don't agree with the way the modern world is. So remember that as well.
Absolutely. And get yourself force-free trainers. So the people that Natalie's speaking about are balanced and compulsion, dominance-based trainers. So these are the ones who will tell you to use prong collars, to use chokers, and not very nice tools on your dog. They'll also probably recommend throwing stones at your dog in a bottle. And they'll probably walk over everything that me and Natalie have said tonight about raising your dog. And, you know, I know some compulsion trainers tell the owners to lock their dogs in cupboards, take all the toys away. And that's horrible. That's just vile. Really not nice. So if you are going to invest your time and your money into a trainer, please first of all make sure that they're force-free. Please make sure they're a member of the Dog Behaviour and Charter, or at the very least Pet Professional Guild. At the very, very least. Don't go with someone who's not membershipped or have got dodgy qualifications.
Yeah.
You can ask to see our qualifications. I carry all mine around with me. I carry copies with me so you can see all of mine. That is on our website. I've got too many to list. If you look at my website, you're going to be like, ugh. But if I added all my qualifications, you
I've stopped listing mine, to be fair. It gets a bit intense.
It does a little bit, and it gets scary because then you're like, oh, they must be so more expensive because I've got all these qualifications, which isn't the case. We're just trying to be transparent.
Yeah.
And just make sure they are with organisations. Make sure that they're force-free and watch their videos. Are they producing videos to let you see their work? Because that's a portfolio. And if you like what you see and if you like what people are saying, then that's probably the right dog training for you. But if you can't see videos, and if they're deleting things, there's not many comments, you know, they're probably deleting comments because people don't agree with them. And you can always contact someone, because on a review, it does say the name of the person. Send them a message and say, hey, I've seen you work with this dog trainer. You gave them a 5-star review. Can you tell me more? It's that simple, isn't it?
And most people we work with are through word of mouth recommendations as well. So, you know, people who you see in the park might say, oh, you need to speak to so-and-so, and they're the people you want to be working with who sort of advocate for us. You know, word
and
of
they've
mouth.
got experience firsthand.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you for joining us. And if you've got any questions, if you want any support, let us know. And even if we're not in your area, we can refer you on to other dog trainers that we trust and we know will look after you.
Yeah.
But any questions, you need any support, even if you're a professional, let us know and we'll be there for you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.